Captain Jake Morrison sat in his command chair watching the stars drift past the observation deck of the Earth survey vessel Horizon. 3 months into their mission, they had mapped 7 new star systems and found nothing more exciting than some interesting rock formations. Jake was starting to think this deep space survey was going to be the most boring assignment of his career. The bridge was quiet except for the gentle hum of the ship's engines. Dr. Lisa Chang was at her station, studying language patterns from a trading post they had visited last week. Commander Rick Barnes was reviewing supply reports, making sure they had enough food and fuel for the long journey home. Everything was normal and peaceful. Then the communications console started beeping. Lieutenant Amy Foster looked up from her station with confusion on her face. Captain, I'm getting something strange on the long-range sensors. It's not like anything I've seen before. Jake turned his chair toward her. What kind of strange? Amy's fingers moved quickly over her controls. It's a signal, sir. But it's not using any known communication protocols. It seems to be broadcasting on 17 different frequencies at once. Pirates? Rick asked, moving closer to Amy's station. No, sir. Pirates don't broadcast to everyone in the galaxy. This signal is so strong, it could reach dozens of star systems. Someone wants everyone to hear this. Jake stood up and walked over. To the communications station? Can you decode it? Amy shook her head. Not yet, sir. But listen to this. She pressed a button, and strange sounds filled the bridge. It was like music, but sad and desperate. Mixed in with the musical tones were numbers and mathematical patterns that seemed to repeat over and over. Dr. Chang looked up from her work. May I hear that again? Amy played the signal once more. Lisa closed her eyes and listened carefully. She had spent years studying alien languages and could often pick up patterns that others missed. It's a distress call, Lisa said after a moment. I'm sure of it. Those mathematical sequences are coordinates, and the musical parts are emotional. Content. Whoever sent this is scared and asking for help. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. In all his years exploring space, he had never heard anything that sounded so desperate. How far away is it coming from? Amy checked her readings. Out. For light years, sir? The signal is coming from a system with 3 inhabited worlds. Any idea who lives there? Lisa was already pulling up files on her computer. The Kalari. They're a peaceful species that lives on crystal worlds. They've never been involved in any conflicts. They mostly keep to themselves and trade minerals with other species. Rick frowned. If they're so peaceful, what could make them send out a distress call like this? Before anyone could answer, Amy's console beeped again. Captain, the signal just changed. It's getting weaker. Jake made a quick decision. Amy, plot a course for that system. Best possible speed. Rick stepped closer to Jake. Sir, we should report this to Earth Fleet Command first. We're just a survey ship. We don't have weapons or military training. By the time Fleet Command organizes a response, whatever is happening there will be over, Jake replied. Amy, how long to reach that system? It's at maximum speed, about 18 hours? Sir? Jake nodded. Take us there. Lisa, I want you to work on decoding more of that message. I need to know exactly what we're flying into. The next few hours passed slowly. Lisa worked without stopping, trying to understand the complex alien language. The signal kept getting weaker, and sometimes it would cut out completely for several minutes. Each time it went silent, everyone on the bridge held their breath until it came back. Finally, Lisa looked up with tired eyes. Got most of it translated, Captain. It's not good. Jake walked over to her station. Tell me. Lisa read from her screen. The message says something like, the Devourers come. We have no weapons. We have no warriors. Our crystal cities break like glass. 3 worlds have gone dark. Please, someone in the stars, help us. We do not know how to fight. We have never learned to kill. The Devourers eat everything. They consume our worlds and leave nothing behind. This is our final call. If anyone can hear this, please remember that the Kalari once sang to the stars. The bridge went completely silent. Even the gentle hum of the engines seemed quieter. Rick was the first to speak. Devourers. I don't like the sound of that. Amy looked at her instruments. Captain, I'm detecting massive energy signatures in that system. Whatever's happening. There, it's big. Jake stared at the view screen, watching the stars grow brighter as they approached their destination. He thought about the Kalari, a species so peaceful they had never learned to fight. He imagined their crystal cities being destroyed by something they called Devourers. How many people live on those 3 worlds? Jake asked. Lisa checked her. Files about 15 million Kalari total, sir. They live in harmony with their crystal environment. They communicate through musical tones and have never developed weapons of any kind. 15 million people, Jake repeated quietly, and someone, or something, is killing them all. The hours passed slowly as the horizon raced through space. The crew took turns monitoring the weakening signal. Sometimes they could hear new voices in the transmission, voices that sounded young and old, all singing the same desperate song. When they were 2 hours away from the system, the signal suddenly became much stronger. Lisa quickly began translating. The new parts, Captain, she said with worry in her voice. They're down to their last world. 2 of the 3 planets have gone completely silent. The survivors have gathered on their home world, and they're preparing for the end. Jake looked around the bridge at his crew. Amy was barely out of the academy, young and eager, but with no combat experience. Rick was a good officer, but had spent his career on peaceful survey missions. Lisa was brilliant with languages, but had never seen a real battle. The rest of the crew was the same, scientists, engineers, and technicians, not soldiers, Sir Emmy said quietly. Long-range sensors are picking up the edge of the system. I'm reading multiple large objects near the inhabited worlds. Jake took a deep breath, put it on screen. The view screen changed to show what their sensors were detecting. What they saw made everyone on the bridge gasp. Hundreds of massive ships surrounded the remaining Kalari world. Some of the ships were so large they looked like small moons. But that wasn't the worst part. Where the other 2 Kalari worlds should have been, there was nothing. Not destroyed planets or debris fields, nothing at all. It was as if 2 entire worlds had simply vanished. My God, Rick whispered. They really do devour everything. Jake stared at the screen. His little survey ship carried 180 people. The enemy fleet had hundreds of ships and had already consumed 2 entire planets. Any logical person would turn around and run. Instead, Jake turned to Amy. How long until we reach the system? 1 hour and 47 minutes, Captain. Jake nodded and sat back in his command chair. All right, people. We're going to help them. I don't know how yet, but we're going to try. Rick looked at him with concern. Jake, we're 1 small ship against an entire fleet. This is suicide. Thought about the desperate singing and the alien message. He thought about 15 million peaceful people who had never hurt anyone, facing an enemy they couldn't fight. Maybe, Jake said, but we're the only help they're going to get. And sometimes 1 ship can make all the difference. As the horizon continued toward the doomed system, the alien song continued to play over the communications system. It was sadder now, like a funeral song for an entire civilization. But Jake Morrison had no intention of letting it end that way. The horizon dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Kalari system. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge, staring at the view screen in horror. What he saw was worse than anything he had imagined. The enemy fleet stretched across space like a dark cloud. Hundreds of ships moved in perfect formation around the last Kalari world. The smaller vessels were the size of Earth's largest battleships. The bigger ones were so massive they cast shadows on the planet's surface. Amy, how many ships are we looking at? Jake asked quietly. Lieutenant Amy Foster's hand shook as she worked her controls. Over 400 vessels, Captain. The largest ones are reading as 20 kilometers long. I've never seen ships that big. Dr. Lisa Chang was listening to the alien communications. The enemy is calling themselves the Zorthok Empire. They're coordinating their attack in perfect unity. Like they share one mind. Commander Rick Barnes pointed at the screen. Look at what they're doing to the planet. Jake watched in disgust as massive beams of energy shot down from the Zorthok ships. But they weren't destroying the planet's surface. Instead, the beams were pulling material up from the ground. Huge chunks of rock, metal, and crystal were being cleared. sucked into the bellies of the enemy ships. They're strip mining the entire planet while people are still living on it, Jake said with anger in his voice. Amy checked her sensors again. Captain, I'm detecting millions of life signs on the surface. They're concentrated in the crystal cities, but the Zorthok are working their way toward them. Elisa suddenly looked up from her station with excitement. Captain, I'm getting a direct communication from the planet. Someone down there is trying to talk to us. Put it through, Jake ordered. A new voice filled the bridge. It was musical and beautiful, but full of sadness. Lisa quickly translated as the alien spoke. Unknown ship, this is Elder Resonance Odan of the Kalari people. We detected your arrival, and we thank you for coming. But you must leave now. The Devourers have been consuming our worlds for 7 days. They cannot be stopped. Save yourselves while you can. Jake stepped forward. Lisa, tell them we're here to help. Ask them what we're dealing with. Lisa spoke into her communicator using the musical tones of the Kalari language. The response came back quickly. The Elder says the Devourers call themselves the Zorthok. They consume everything, rock, metal, crystal, even the air and water. They take entire planets apart and use the materials to build more ships. They have no permanent home. They just move from system to system, eating worlds. Rick shook his head. That's impossible. No civilization could survive by just destroying other planets. The Elder says they've been doing this for thousands of years, Lisa continued translating. Their original home was destroyed when their son died. They believe they must consume other worlds to survive. They don't see it as evil, just necessary. Jake felt sick to his stomach. How many Kalari are left? Lisa asked the question and waited for the response. 12 million survivors on this world, Captain. The Zorthok have already consumed the other 2 planets completely. Every living thing on those worlds is gone. Amy looked up from her sensors. Captain, some of the smaller Zorthok ships are moving toward us. I think they've noticed we're here. Jake made a quick decision. Take us deeper into the asteroid field near the 4th planet. We need to stay hidden while we figure out what we're dealing with. As the horizon moved to a better hiding spot, Lisa continued talking to the Kalari Elder. She learned that the Kalari had never developed weapons because their crystal bodies were extremely fragile. A strong wind could seriously hurt them. They had evolved on peaceful worlds with no predators or natural disasters. They literally don't understand the concept of violence, Lisa explained to the crew. They don't even have words for war or battle in their language. The closest thing they have is a word that means disagreement about music. Rick looked at the tactical display showing the enemy fleet. No wonder they can't fight back. They're like children facing a pack of wolves. Jake studied the movement patterns of the Zorthok ships. Amy, I need you to do a detailed scan of their fleet. I want to know everything. Ship types, weapons, weak points, anything that might help us. Amy nodded and began her work. After an hour of careful scanning, she had disturbing news. Captain, the Zorthok ships are unlike anything in our databases. They seem to be biological and mechanical at the same time. The whole material looks like it grows rather than being built. Their weapons are designed for mining and consumption, not traditional combat. That might be good news for us, Jake said. If they're not designed for ship-to-ship combat, we might have an advantage. Lisa had been quiet for several minutes, listening to Zorthok communications. Finally, she spoke up. Captain, I've been monitoring their transmissions. The Zorthok aren't evil monsters. They're desperate refugees who have been homeless for so long they've forgotten how to live any other way. Rick frowned. That doesn't make what they're doing right. No, it doesn't. Lisa agreed. But it explains why they're so organized and efficient. They've been doing this for generations. Consuming planets is their entire way of life now. Jake walked over to the view screen and stared at the enemy fleet. How long before they finish with the Kalari world? Amy checked her calculations. Their current rate of consumption? Maybe 3 days. They're working from the outside in, taking the uninhabited areas first. But they'll reach the crystal cities soon. Suddenly, Amy's console started beeping urgently. Captain, we've got company. 3 Zorthok scout ships are heading our way. They must have detected our engine signature. Jake felt his heart racing. How long until they reach us? 20 minutes, sir. Jake looked around the bridge at his crew. They were scientists and explorers, not warriors. Their ship had basic defensive shields and some mining equipment, but no real weapons. Against 3 enemy ships, they wouldn't stand a chance in a direct fight. Amy, plot a course that takes us around the system's edge. Use the gravity of the gas giant to mask our energy signature. We need to avoid those scouts. The horizon moved. Carefully through space, hiding behind planets and asteroids. The 3 Zorthok ships searched the area where they had been, but couldn't find them. As they watched the enemy ships from their hiding place, Jake noticed something important. Zorthok ships moved in perfect formation, never deviating from their planned routes. They seemed to share information instantly across their entire fleet. They're a hive mind, Jake realized. That's why they're so coordinated. They all think as one. Lisa nodded. That explains the communication patterns I've been hearing. They're not talking to each other. They're sharing thoughts directly. That to be both an advantage and a disadvantage for us, Rick said. They'll know about any attack instantly, but if we can disrupt their communication, they might not know how to act independently. Jake made his decision. Amy, take us back toward the fleet, but keep us hidden. I want to observe their patterns for a few hours, sir. What are we planning to do? Amy asked nervously. Jake looked at the massive enemy fleet surrounding the helpless Colliery world. One small Earth survey ship against hundreds of massive vessels. The odds were impossible. We're going to do what humans do best, Jake said quietly. We're going to find a way to win anyway. As the horizon moved into position, elder resonance of Don's voice came through the communicator again. Lisa translated his words, says the Colliery have given up hope. They're singing their death songs now, preparing to join their ancestors. He's thanking us for trying to help, even though we can't save them. Jake clenched his fists. 12 million. Innocent people were about to die, and they expected him to just watch it happen. But Jake Morrison hadn't spent 15 years in space to run away when people needed help. Lisa, tell the elders something for me, Jake said. Tell them that humans don't believe in impossible odds. Tell them we're not leaving. Captain Jake Morrison called an emergency meeting in the main conference room. The entire senior staff gathered around the table, looking worried and uncertain. Outside the windows, they could see the massive Zorthok fleet continuing to strip mine. The Colliery world. I know what you're all thinking, Jake began. We're one small ship against hundreds of enemy vessels. Any sane person would call Earth Fleet Command and wait for backup. Commander Rick Barnes nodded. Jake, I ran the numbers. Even if we had a full battle fleet, we'd still be outnumbered 10-1. With just the horizon, this is suicide. Chief Engineer Ben Murphy spoke up from the end of the table. He was a big man with rough hands and oil stains on his uniform. Captain, I've been looking at our systems. We've got mining lasers, industrial fabricators, and a cargo bay full of construction equipment. We're not a warship. That's exactly why we might have a chance, Jake said. The Zorthok have been fighting peaceful species for thousands of years. They've never faced anyone like us. Dr. Lisa Chang looked confused. What do you mean, Captain? Jake stood up and walked to the window. Lisa, what do you know about Earth's history? I know we've had more wars than any other species in the galaxy, Lisa replied. That's right. And do you know why? Lisa shook her head. Jake turned back to the group. Because Earth is what the galaxy calls a death world. Our planet tried to kill us every single day for millions of years. Violent storms, earthquakes, volcanoes, ice ages, diseases, and predators that wanted to eat us. Most species evolved intelligence to avoid danger. We evolved intelligence to fight it. Lieutenant Amy Foster looked thoughtful. I remember reading about that in the academy. They said humans are classified as an aggressive species. Not aggressive, Jake corrected. Adaptable. When other species face a problem they can't solve, they find ways to avoid it. When humans face a problem we can't solve, we find ways to make it smaller until we can beat it. Ben Murphy smiled for the first time since the meeting started. You want us to turn the horizon into a warship? I want us to turn the horizon into something the Zorthok have never seen before, Jake said. Ben, how long would it take you to modify our mining lasers into weapons? Ben thought for a moment. The mining lasers are actually more powerful than most military weapons. They're designed to cut through solid rock. Give me 6 hours, and I can boost their power by 50%. What about our shields? Jake asked. The Horizon shields are designed to protect against asteroid impacts and radiation. They're not military grade, but they're stronger than you might think. Sergeant Lisa Rodriguez had been quiet during the meeting. She was the leader of the ship's small security team, 12 people, who were supposed to handle emergencies and keep order on the ship. Now Jake was looking at her like she was supposed to fight an entire alien fleet. Sergeant, how many people on this ship have combat training? Lisa thought carefully. 23 people have military backgrounds, Captain. Most of them are engineers. Or technicians, not soldiers. But every person on this ship has been through survival training. It's more than I expected, Jake said. What about weapons? We have emergency equipment, some pulse rifles, body armor, and basic explosives. For clearing debris. Nothing designed for real combat. Amy looked up from her computer. Captain, I've been studying the Zorthok ship movements. They're very predictable. They follow exact patterns and never deviate from their plans. That's their weakness, Jake. Realized they're so used to the hive mind that they can't adapt quickly to unexpected situations. Dr. Chang had been translating more Zorthok communications. Captain, I think I understand how their society works. They don't have individuals. Like we do. Every Zorthok is part of a larger consciousness. They make decisions as a group and act as one entity. So if we can confuse or surprise them, they won't know how to react quickly, Jake said. Rick was still worried. Even if we can surprise them, we're still just one ship. How much damage can we possibly do? Jake smiled grimly. Hey, Rick, have you ever heard of the Battle of Thermopylae? Rick shook his head. 300 Spartan warriors held off an army of hundreds of thousands for 3 days. They didn't win, but they proved that sometimes a small force in the right place can change everything. Ben Murphy was getting excited about the technical challenges. Captain, if we're really doing this, I have some ideas. We can use the cargo. Fabricators to make improvised weapons. The mining drones can be reprogrammed for combat. We have enough raw materials to build some nasty surprises. What kind of surprises? Jake asked. Well, those construction charges we use for building survey stations, they're basically bombs. And our emergency beacon transmitters can be modified to jam enemy communications. Sergeant Rodriguez was making notes. If we're going to fight, we need to think like guerrilla fighters. Hit-and-run attacks, sabotage, anything to cause chaos in their fleet. Jake looked around the room at his crew. Yeah, they were scared, but they were also getting determined. I want everyone to understand. Something, we're not trying to destroy their entire fleet. Can't. What we're trying to do is buy time for the Kalari and maybe convince the Zorthok that this isn't worth the cost. Amy raised her hand. Captain, should we contact Earth Fleet Command? Let them know what we're doing? Jake thought about it for a moment. Send them a message, but don't wait for a response. Tell them we're engaging the enemy under humanitarian protocols. If we wait for orders, the Kalari will be dead. Over the next few hours, the Horizon transformed from a peaceful survey ship into something that would have frightened the people who designed it. Ben Murphy and his engineers worked without rest, turning mining equipment into weapons and industrial tools into instruments of war. The mining lasers were boosted to military power levels. The cargo drones were fitted with explosives and programmed to seek out enemy ships. Construction charges were turned into space mines. Even the food fabricators were reprogrammed to make chemical explosives. Sergeant Rodriguez trained everyone who volunteered for combat duty. She taught them how to move in zero gravity, how to use pulse rifles, and how to think like soldiers instead of scientists. Dr. Chang worked on understanding Zorthok communications and psychology. She discovered that the hive mind had one major weakness. If the command ships were damaged or destroyed, smaller ships couldn't function properly on their own. Finally, Jake sent a message to Admiral Pete Collins at Earth Fleet Command. The message was simple. Admiral, we found a situation that requires immediate action. The Zorthok Empire is consuming inhabited worlds in the Nexer system. We are the only ship in position to help. Request permission to engage under humanitarian protocols. The response came back 12 hours later. Admiral Collins' face appeared on the screen looking tired and worried. Jake, I've looked at the intelligence reports. What you're facing is impossible. No one expects you to fight an entire fleet with one survey ship. Jake stood at attention. Sir, we're the only help these people are going to get. Admiral Collins was quiet for a long moment. Jake, Earth Fleet Command cannot officially order you to engage in a hopeless battle. But if you choose to act under humanitarian protocols, you have my full support. The Admiral leaned forward and his expression became serious. Show them why we're called Deathworlders, Captain. After the communication ended, Jake called the crew together one final time. He looked at the 180 people who had volunteered to fight impossible odds to save strangers. People of Earth, he began, we're about to do something that the galaxy will remember forever. We're going to show them what happens when someone threatens innocent people while humans are watching. The crew cheered, and Jake felt something he had never experienced before. These weren't soldiers or warriors. They were ordinary people who had decided to do something extraordinary. The horizon turned toward the Zorthok fleet, and the real battle was about to begin. The first attack came at dawn on the Kalari homeworld. Captain Jake Morrison watched from the bridge as 3 Zorthok mining ships moved away from the main fleet. They were heading toward a crystal city where 2 million Kalari lived. Jake said quietly. Amy, take us in. Target the lead ship. Lieutenant Amy Foster's hands were steady on the controls, despite her fear. The Horizon dropped out of its hiding place behind an asteroid and raced toward the enemy ships at full speed. The Zorthok didn't notice them at first. They were focused on their mining operation and didn't expect anyone to attack them. By the time their sensors detected the human ship, it was too late. Fire, Jake ordered. Chief Engineer Ben Murphy had done his job well, the modified mining. Lasers hit the first Zorthok ship with enough power to cut through a mountain. The alien vessel's biomechanical hull cracked and split open, spilling atmosphere and strange fluids into space. Direct hit? Amy reported. The ship is disabled. But the other 2 Zorthok ships were already turning to face them. Jake could see weapon ports opening along their hulls. Evasive maneuvers, Jake commanded. Let them get a lock on us. Amy threw the Horizon into a spinning dive that would have made most people sick. Energy beams from the Zorthok ships passed through the space where they had been just seconds before. Their weapons are designed for mining, not combat, observed Commander Rick Barnes. They're powerful but slow to aim. Jake smiled grimly. Then, we don't give them time to aim. Amy, bring us around for another pass. The Horizon swooped toward the second Zorthok ship like an angry hawk.
Hi.
This time Jake ordered multiple attacks at once. Mining lasers, modified cargo drones filled with explosives, and even pieces of space debris fired from their construction equipment. The Zorthok ship tried to turn away, but it was too big and slow. The human attacks hit it from 3 different directions at the same time. The ship didn't explode. It just stopped working and began drifting in space. The third Zorthok ship tried to run back to the main fleet, but Sergeant Lisa Rodriguez had prepared for this. She had programmed some of their mining drones to act as guided missiles. The drones chased the fleeing ship and exploded against its engines. 3 ships down, Amy reported with excitement in her voice. But Jake's celebration was short-lived. Alarms began sounding all over the bridge. Captain, Amy said with worry, the main Zorthok fleet is responding. 50 ships are breaking formation and heading our way. Jake looked at the tactical display. 50 ships. Even small Zorthok vessels were twice the size of the Horizon. Take us into the asteroid field, Jake ordered. We're going to play hide-and-seek. For the next 6 hours, the Horizon used hit-and-run tactics against the Zorthok pursuers. Would hide behind asteroids, attack suddenly, and then disappear again before the enemy could respond. Dr. Lisa Chang made an important discovery during the fighting. Captain, I've been monitoring Zorthok communications. When we attack one ship, all the nearby ships know about it instantly. But there's a delay when they try to coordinate a response. How long a delay? Jake asked while dodging another energy beam. About 12 seconds. That's how long it takes for the hive mind to process new information and decide what to do. Understood immediately. 12 seconds is a lifetime in combat. Amy, new strategy. We hit them fast and move before they can think. The new tactics worked even better. The Horizon would appear without warning, destroy or disable an enemy ship, and vanish before the Zorthok could react. Jake's crew began to understand why humans were feared throughout the galaxy. Ben Murphy turned the ship's cargo bay into a weapons factory. He built devices that no military engineer would have thought possible. Mines made from lunch trays and explosives. Missiles built from emergency beacons. Even their water recycling system was turned into a weapon that sprayed corrosive chemicals. Sergeant Rodriguez led boarding parties onto damaged Zorthok ships. The aliens discovered that humans could survive in environments that would kill most species. Their ships were designed to protect the crew from the vacuum of space, but they became death traps when humans got inside. These Zorthok can't handle changes to their environment, Rodriguez reported after her third boarding mission. Their breathing equipment doesn't work well in different atmospheres. We can use that against them. The human attacks became more creative and vicious with each success. Amy learned to use the Horizon's gravity generators as weapons, creating sudden changes in gravitational pull that tore apart enemy ships. Ben figured out how to overload the ship's communications array to create electromagnetic pulses that confused Zorthok sensors. But the most important discovery came from Dr. Chang. She found the frequency that the Zorthok used for their hive mind communications. "Captain," she said excitedly, "I can jam their communications. If I can build a powerful enough transmitter, I can cut off entire sections of their fleet from the hive mind." Jake realized how important this was. "What do you need?" "The main communication array from our ship, plus every emergency transmitter we have, will leave us without long-range communications, but it might work." "Do it," Jake ordered, without hesitation. While Chang worked on her communication jammer, the battle continued around the Kalari homeworld. The Horizon had destroyed or disabled over 20 Zorthok ships, but there were still hundreds more. The enemy was learning to do. They began to adapt their tactics, trying to surround the human ship instead of chasing it. They started working in smaller groups that could respond faster to unexpected attacks. Jake knew they were running out of time. The Horizon had taken damage from several near misses, and his crew was getting exhausted. They couldn't keep fighting forever. Then Elder Resonance Sovedon sent a message from the planet's surface. "Captain Morrison," Lisa translated, "the Kalari want to help? They can't fight, but they have an idea." Jake was skeptical. What can they do? "They're too fragile to survive in space." The response surprised him. "The Elder says the Kalari can create harmonic resonances that affect crystal and metal structures. They think they can weaken the hulls of Zorthok ships if they work together." Jake thought about it quickly. The Zorthok ships were partly biological, but they also contained a lot of metal and crystal components. "Tell them to try," Jake decided. "We'll coordinate our attacks with their resonance bursts." What happened next amazed everyone on the Horizon. 12 million Kalari voices joined together in a song that could be heard across space. The harmonic frequencies they created made the hulls of nearby Zorthok ships vibrate and crack. The combined attack was devastating. While the Kalari weakened enemy ships with their singing, the Horizon destroyed them with conventional weapons. In 1 hour, they disabled more enemy vessels than in the previous 6 hours of fighting, but success came with a price. The massive Zorthok mothership, a vessel 20 kilometers long, began moving toward the planet. Captain Amy said with fear in her voice, "That ship has enough firepower to destroy the entire planet. It's heading straight for the largest Kalari city." Jake looked at the enormous enemy ship on his screen. It was 50 times larger than the Horizon and probably carried more weapons than the entire Earth fleet. "How long until it reaches the planet?" Jake asked. At its current speed, 37 minutes. Jake made the hardest decision of his life. All stop. Set course to intercept the mothership. Rick stared at him in shock. "Jake, that's suicide. We can't fight something that big." Jake turned to look at his crew. They were dirty, tired, and scared, but they were still ready to follow him. "Maybe we can't fight it," Jake said, "but we can make sure it doesn't reach those cities." As the horizon turned toward the massive Zorthok mothership, Jake thought about Earth and the long history of humans who had faced impossible odds. Sometimes they won, sometimes they lost, but they never gave up when innocent people needed protection. The final battle was about to begin. The Zorthok mothership filled the entire view screen. Captain Jake Morrison had seen large ships before, but nothing compared to this massive vessel. It was like a small moon covered in weapons and mining equipment. Energy readings showed it had enough power to crack a planet in half. "Captain," Lieutenant Amy Foster said quietly, "I'm reading over 2,000 weapon ports on that ship. Our shields won't last 10 seconds against that kind of firepower." Jake looked around the bridge at his crew. They had been fighting for 8 hours straight. Their uniforms were torn and dirty. Some had bandages from minor injuries. But their eyes still showed determination. "How many people are still able to fight?" Jake asked Sergeant Lisa Rodriguez. 93 crew members are still operational, Captain. We've lost some people to injuries, but nobody's dead yet." Chief Engineer Ben Murphy wiped oil from his hands. "Sir, I've got one more trick up my sleeve. I can overload our main reactor to create a massive explosion. It won't destroy that mothership, but it might damage it enough to stop their attack on the planet." Commander Rick Barnes shook his head. "Ben, if you overload the reactor, we all die." "We're probably going to die anyway," Ben replied. "At least, this way it means something." Dr. Lisa Chang was still monitoring communications from the planet's surface. "Captain Elder Resonant Sovdon is asking if there's anything the Kalari can do to help." Jake thought for a moment. The Kalari had helped weaken enemy ships with their harmonic singing, but what could they do against something as massive as the mothership? "Ask them if they can create a resonance powerful enough to affect that big ship," Jake said. Lisa spoke to the Elder in the musical Kalari language. The response came back quickly, and her face went pale. "Captain," the Elder says, "they can create a resonance that powerful, but it would require every Kalari on the planet to sing together. The effort would probably kill most of them." Jake felt sick. He couldn't ask 12 million people to sacrifice their lives, even to save themselves. But then another voice came through the communicator. It was a younger Kalari, and Lisa translated. As they spoke, "This is Crystal Song of Hope, speaking for the young Kalari. We have discussed this among ourselves. The Devourers will kill us all anyway. If we can help you stop the great ship, our deaths will have meaning. We choose to sing the final song." Jake closed his eyes for a moment. These peaceful people were willing to die to help him protect their world. He had never felt such responsibility in his life. "Tell them to wait for my signal," Jake said finally. "We're going to coordinate one final attack." The horizon raced toward the mothership at maximum speed. The enemy vessel began firing its weapons, filling space with deadly energy beams. Amy flew the ship like it was a fighter instead of a survey vessel, dodging between the attacks with incredible skill. "We're too small for their big guns to track us properly," Amy reported, "but that won't last long." Jake studied the massive ship on his screen. "Ben, where would you place our reactor explosion to do the most damage?" Ben pointed to a section near the center of the ship. "That area looks like their main power core. If we can get close enough, an overloaded reactor might cause a chain reaction." "How close is close enough?" "We'd need to be inside their hull when the reactor explodes." Jake understood what that meant. They would have to ram their ship into the mothership and detonate their reactor from the inside. It was a one-way trip. Amy, plot a ramming course. For that power section, best possible speed. Amy's hands hesitated over the controls for just a moment. Then she nodded and began calculating the attack course. Rodriguez had been preparing her remaining. "Security team for a boarding action, Captain. If we're going inside that ship, my people can plant additional explosives while Ben sets up the reactor overload. How long would you need?" "Give us 5 minutes inside their hull, and we can do some real damage." Jake made his decision. "All right, people. This is how we're going to do it. Amy rams us into their hull. Rodriguez and her team plant explosives. Throughout their power section, Ben overloads the reactor. And when I give the signal, the Kaleri hit them with everything they've got. The crew looked at each other with understanding. They all knew this was a suicide mission. But they also knew it was the only way to save 12 million innocent people. Captain Amy said the mothership is changing course. It's heading directly for the largest Kalari city. This speed, it will reach bombardment range in 4 minutes. Then we stop talking and start fighting, Jake said. All hands prepare for ramming speed. The horizon accelerated toward the massive enemy ship. Mothership's weapons fired constantly, but the human vessel was too fast and too small. Energy beams that could destroy battleships passed harmlessly through empty space. As they got closer, Jake could see details on the mothership's hull. It was covered in organic-looking growths and mechanical structures. They had been built from the remains of consumed worlds. 30 seconds to impact, Amy announced. Jake opened a communication channel to the entire ship. Crew of the Horizon, it has been an honor serving with you. Today we show the galaxy what humans do when innocent people need protection. The Horizon struck the mothership's hull at maximum speed. The survey ship's reinforced front section punched through the biomechanical armor like a bullet through paper. Alarms began screaming throughout both vessels as atmosphere rushed out of the breach. Inside, Rodriguez reported, "My team is moving toward the power cores." Ben Murphy was already working to overload the reactor. "Give me 3 minutes, Captain. I need to bypass about 50 safety systems." Jake opened a channel to the planet's surface. Elder Resonance Ovdon, begin the harmonic resonance now. Happened next was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. 12 million Kaleri voices joined together in a song of such power that it could be felt across the star system. The harmonic frequency struck the mothership like a physical blow. The massive vessel began to shake and vibrate. Cracks appeared in its hull. Some of the smaller weapon ports simply tore apart from the resonance. Rodriguez and her team moved through the enemy ship like ghosts. The Zorthok crew couldn't understand what was happening. Their hive mind was being disrupted by the Kalari song, and they couldn't coordinate a response to the human borders. "Explosives placed," Rodriguez reported. "The power core is rigged to blow." Ben Murphy's voice came over the communicator. "Reactor overload ready, Captain, on your command." Jake looked around the bridge of his ship for the last time. His crew had given everything they had to protect people they had never met. He was proud of every one of them. "Do it," Jake ordered. The explosion started with Ben's overloaded reactor and spread through the Horizon's hull into the mothership's power core. Rodriguez's explosives added to the destruction. But the Kaleri harmonic resonance turned a large explosion into something catastrophic. The sound waves from 12 million voices created a resonance cascade that spread through the mothership's entire structure. The massive vessel didn't just explode, it tore itself apart from the inside. The destruction of the mothership sent shockwaves through the Zorthok fleet. For the first time in thousands of years, the hive mind was disrupted. Individual Zorthok found themselves thinking alone, without the constant guidance of the collective consciousness. Many of the Zorthok ships simply stopped working as their crews struggled to understand individual thought. Others began fighting each other as different sections of the hive mind gave conflicting orders. Elder. Resonance of Dawn's final message reached the few surviving human escape pods. Dr. Chang, one of only 37 humans who survived the explosion, translated his words. "People of the death world called Earth, the Kaleri will remember your sacrifice forever. We will sing of your courage until the stars grow cold. The galaxy now knows what happens when someone threatens the innocent while humans are watching." 3 days later, Earth fleet reinforcements arrived to find the Zorthok fleet surrendering. Cut off from their hive mind, individual Zorthok were capable of mercy and negotiation. They agreed to help rebuild the Kaleri worlds instead of consuming them. The Battle of Nexer Prime became legendary throughout the galaxy. The story of 180 humans who faced impossible odds to protect 12 million aliens they had never met spread to every civilized world. Captain Jake Morrison was posthumously awarded the Earth Federation's highest honor. But more importantly, Galactic Council established the Terran Protectorate, giving humans the authority to defend peaceful species throughout the galaxy. The word Deathworlder was no longer used as an insult. It became a promise that somewhere in the galaxy, there were people who would fight impossible odds to protect the innocent. And in the crystal cities of Nexar Prime, the Colri still sing the song of the Deathworld Guardians every day at sunset, remembering the humans who proved that sometimes the galaxy's most dangerous predators make the best protectors.